So yeah, Prime Week was exhausting, but hey, I'm back now with 4 episodes I've got to recap. Two things I want to comment on before I actually start. I'm not going to be doing Ultraman Rube past the first episode now, because, Subaru, well, what I advertised in the last time I did a vlog with Rube included was, well, Subaraya was putting up the episodes on YouTube, and then, Color Timer Salves was putting the subtitles in, and then they were going to revise it later. Well, Subaraya locked the ability to do closed captions, and Region locked the episodes, unfortunately. Fortunately, they did say on the YouTube broadcasts of trailers for stuff that they are working to get into motion international broadcasting. We don't know whether that's through Crunchyroll or not, but they're in the process of getting something workable for people who watch the show internationally, which they recognize, which is a lot more than I can say Toei ever does for us. So I'm willing to wait until they got special stuff out. Plus, I checked out episode 2 with Color Timer, and yeah, the revising they said is happening isn't really happening, or at least to the quality I expect. And I know as a PvP user, people bitch about their quality all the time, but there really is a contrasting difference. They're not terrible, but there's a lot of more that could be done to fix them up before they actually get them to broadcast, so I'm just going to put that to the side for now. Second, Kamen Rider Zi-O. Well, we now know its production staff. Shinichiro Shirakura, Naomi Takebe, and writer, both of them as producers. Director is Ryota Tasaki. I have no problems with him, but the writer is Kento Shimoyama, the Ninja guy. I have said and pointed out many negative things about Shirakura and Takebe, and Shimoyama is crap in my normal scripted formal reviews. The last time those three were together on a project, the product that resulted was Kyoryuger Brave. And as I said, that 12-episode miniseries, which was equivalent to 6 episodes of a normal show, was worse than the full run of Dino Charge. It is honestly up there as one of the worst products Toei has produced in recent years, and only doesn't top that as the worst Sentai series because it's so freaking short. So, I expect nothing good to happen from Zi-O, and I am warning everybody else that actually watched this. You are free to have your own opinions. I might be wrong, but the last time creators that have a negative reputation got together on a show that, it resulted in such a bile-dripping, anger-inducing moment that I just dropped it. So, honestly, I just want to give it, I'm not intending to give it, I might, if the first episode is decent, go to my standard 5-episode chance, but I really don't want to give them more than 3, as I don't want to put up with the bullshit that I know was going to be coming from those creators. So, if I've said so much on those creators that I think anyone that regularly follows me would know that, my general opinion on them being producers of shit, but come on. They're really doing this. Even the descriptor for the show paints it as a ripoff of Den-O with a decayed paint job. It's, pretty transparent. The lead female protagonist, not the actual lead of the series, the female lead of the series, being a time traveler from Back to the Future that escaped a disaster and is hunting for a hero. Does that sound like Kohana from Den-O to anyone else? Yes, I know her normal name is Hana, and Kohana is her child form after the adult actor for the character had to get special medical treatments that took her out of the show. But seriously, it's pretty transparent, and we all know that whenever Shirakura repeats something that someone else or even staff under him did previously, it ended up in a product that completely sucked. Amazon's was terrible, or at the least, people found the most egregious sins committed by the characters with the most presence in it if they actually liked it. Most of the people that tell me they like Amazon's says it isn't for Haruka, who they keep promoting as the actual hero of the show, but the side characters or the people that were promoted as or depicted as its villains. So, that is not generally not a good thing to present things as, especially since that's the Yasuko Kobayashi series. So they had a lot of two sins against them. But back to my points, I have no expectations that Zi-O is going to be of any passable quality. So if that happens, I'm just going to cut cold turkey with Kamen Rider for the 30 episodes it's planned to run. It's like, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of other people did that as well. I'm just giving you forewarning, as that's about a month out from now. So either the vlogs are going to become non-existent because Lupinranger is improving right now, but not enough for me to stick with following it at the moment. It has another month of a chance to change my opinion, but otherwise I probably might end up skipping up after Build ends, skipping vlogs on toku series until Garo's Jenga series starts up in October. I mean, it would give me more time to work on other stuff. I just want to give people fair warning that might be what ends up happening if Zi-O turns out to be utter garbage, like is the expected precedent from these creative individuals that are in charge of it. But onto what I should actually be discussing: Lupinranger. Another 2 decent episodes, usually due to Noel being part of them. The first one is cooking battles. Since Tuma is a professional chef, this fits pretty well. A trio of special monsters, like a gang within the greater gangler, come together. 2 subordinates to a character named Raimon? I left my phone in the other room, so I can't pull the wiki up on my thing, but I think his name is. I think the guy's name is Raimon. I am terrible with names. I apologize if I'm getting this wrong. But yeah, he's kind of based after a prehistoric cat, so definitely a bit of a mythology reference there to. I'm forgetting the specific creature that's called, but it's basically a lightning-themed cat. But yeah, he has a special breed of gangler. He seems to be the most intelligent villain we've had in the show for quite some time. That's not, one of the chief antagonists of the series, and is actually, kind of planning out his stuff. They're not even really doing evil crap yet. They're not actually executing a plan. They're just, getting ready for a bigger plan. It almost seems, and as if they're in the backdrop or something. They're just coming in to taunt Zamigo and his subordinates that they're going to be the ones to trump everything. And hey, from how they act, they actually kind of seem to sell it as more intelligent antagonists. Their actions, however, less so, as the first of these plots is they're trying to... I shouldn't say they're trying to. The bull-based member of the team is apparently the group's cook, and to show his superiority as a cook, they attack a cooking event which Tuma had been brought to by Noel undercover, and they essentially get into a cooking battle. During the course of the episode, Tuma's dial fighter gets damaged, so he can only stall them in civilian form, so it becomes a little cooking battle where Tuma has to fight this bull guy, and the bull guy is a terrible cook, and honestly, I think the reason why Raimon and the other guy, Kiwi, I remember his name because he is based on a kiwi bird, and I think a kiwi fruit, but, yeah, they think that the bull monster is actually a very good cook, but apparently he's the only food they had, so when they taste Tuma's cooking, he blows them away almost literally. It reminded me a lot of the 2-parter episode with the black-knifed chef that was a worm, and I remember that because I watched Kabuto for the purposes of writing the script for it. The script is done. I'm unfortunately going to have to sadly be delaying that until release next year because I don't have the time to finish it. Finish editing it. I've got a bunch of stuff long before that in the editing queue before I can get to that, but that's neither here nor there. It reminds me so much of that because that's kind of the contrast we have here. Tuma's cooking skill is up there with Soji Tendo, and, well, the Bull Monster, he uses his Lupin collection piece to shorthand the cooking process for everything he makes. How? Well, it's based on the Dynaman brace, and its ability is to radiate heat and vibrate molecules. Basically, the entire weapon is a giant microwave gun. And microwaving meat to cook it is one of the worst things you could do to meat to actually bring out its flavor. I mean, okay, I'm not the greatest cook. I pretty much stick to recipe stuff. I don't substitute out much. In fact, I don't even eat much meat. I am not a meat eater. I don't like the taste of meat. But even I know that you have to properly cook meat by actual application of heating implements, fire, electrical heating. You need to have convection transfer. You can't microwave the meat. The microwaving process completely changes how the flavor of pretty much everything reads. Like, you can microwave some stuff and have it taste good, but it won't taste as well as if you had properly baked it. And this is probably his biggest sin, because he focuses so much on the stuff he can use his Lupin collection piece to cook that I think his brethren monsters got so used to it, so they didn't ever expect anything cooked by, a human hand with more care to it to actually have any tangible quality taste to it. And, the way they finally end up presenting the food, it's like it's all slopped together with the monster style, whereas Tuma's stuff looks like an actual 5-course meal with all the side sauces and the artistry to it. Admittedly, I'm not one for that much aesthetic. I'm one that prefers function over form, so my stuff ironically ends up looking more like a more refined version of the Bull Monsters stuff, but wow, is that an additional contrast. I mean, I can name a number of shows that have had cooking episodes where stuff looks terrible but tastes good, so it would have actually been funny had Tuma's stuff looked a bit more raw, because the Bull Monster took all the good ingredients, and so he was he had to pull a Sanji from One Piece and make the crappier quality food actually be the better of the two, but Toei stuff is usually not that clever to do that kind of thing. Again, the last one I think that did was Soji Tendo, and he as well usually tried to prefer quality ingredients because he was cooking for his little siblings. Well, not little siblings, but, younger siblings. So yeah, I definitely got a Soji Tendo vibe, just with less arrogance. Tuma, all this time, is pretty much the, not quite stoic, but definitely serious one in that he's not emoting and he's very analytical, and this again shows that in his contrast with Noel, and, well, how he doesn't trust Noel simply due to his nature of switching between both sides. But Noel actually gets a bit more trust with him by admitting that he really isn't a thief or a cop, he's an engineer looking after all the Lupin collection pieces. So allying with him really is the best thing they could do, as he will help them keep them from being destroyed by the Patranger being reckless. And in fact, he's already shown to be reining in the Patranger by giving Keiichiro something to think about. Like in both this and the next episode I gotta discuss, Keiichiro almost seems like a good character because he's not shouting his head off and going forward full force without thinking of the consequences of his fucking actions. It's like you could actually salvage and redeem the character if he would just apologize for his previous antics. And this is all perpetrated by Noel, so this is arguably a show that finally clicks with its previous so frustrating content by adding a new character to the cast to not so much contrast, but alleviate the frustration from this character. The second episode, episode 24, is the second part with these episodes, with Tsukasa trying to infiltrate Kiwi's own operation which is giving out these lucky leaf charms that actually, after they're used enough times, turn into giant ivy growths to then drain the life force from the victims in exchange for the luck it gave them. This is actually pretty horrifying with how they do that, but Kairi is prevented from getting much for research on it because the Patranger, thanks to Noel, were actually well on their way of performing a sting operation on this thing, and Noel didn't get a chance to tell them because they went full force into it. So he's stuck on the sidelines as the Patranger see him there, and they force Tsukasa to evacuate. I shouldn't say force, but they have Tsukasa evacuate him, and Tsukasa, having done the research on Kairi and the others, because, well, she thought they were the Lupinranger earlier in the show, not knowing that they actually are, and tries to have a heart-to-heart with him about how stupid it was for him to be in a criminal den like that on purpose. And in doing so, she gives her own backstory in a way that's been better presented than either Sakia's or Keiichiro's, as it allows an actual emotional connection with her, with how Tsukasa, like Kairi, had her parents die and had to be taken care of by another family member. To contrast Kairi and his older brother, it was instead Tsukasa's grandparents. Her grandfather being a retired policeman, and the moment when Tsukasa acted out in similar ways Kairi did, that kind of broke the relationship with the other family member, they had this moment of clarity later on where all the rough training that Tsukasa went through with her grandfather that made her at odds with him actually served to help her when someone tried to accost one of her friends when they were returning from school. And in the aftermath of that incident, she saw how her grandfather reacted, and it was with deep and immense concern that ended up causing their reconciliation. And this is contrasting well against Kairi, who has all of these complex emotions, in that the last time he saw his brother, it was in a moment of stupid, angry conflict that he immensely regrets because, well, he never got a chance to reconcile because Zamigo then killed him with his ice powers. So you could see this contrasted as Tsukasa got the happy ending and is a stable, mostly productive member of society because she got that chance to reconcile and put all these things to rest, while Kairi is stuck because he wants to reconcile but is suffering the tragedy of never being able to due to Zamigo's actions that he's desperately trying to fix and correct. Now, when this all aired, it ended up causing people to start, well, shipping the characters, because, come on, Keiichiro and Tsukasa, that would never work. But mainly because of this common linking element and the contrasting ways the two individuals dealt with this, because, well, this wouldn't be the first time that people with similar backgrounds but different ways of acting things would end up being linked through that commonality to then enter the romantic range. And we've already got Sakia crushing on Umika, so it wouldn't be entirely out there. I'm not entirely sold on it, but, you know, the only other shipping stuff that's happening with the series is people crack shipping Umika and Tsukasa because of previous episodes between the Yellow and Pink Rangers. And the whole rivalry angle that, yeah, I don't need to expand on that. But yeah, this was a good contrast and probably the closest that we've gotten to a real human conversation between the sides that didn't have some type of stupid forced prompting to it. Or in the case of Kairi constantly being around Keiichiro, it's what that could have also been seen as him plugging in information. So I think this works in re-earning the respect on the Patranger side for the Lupinranger, as you could see it as them trying to pass on a mentorship thing, not a mentorship how should I describe this? Passing on life experience to someone they're younger. But the problem that comes with that is the Patranger have been, well, dumbasses a lot of the length of the show. So I like this character element that to help bring them together, but it's not bridging because, well, Tsukasa had that tragedy from losing her parents similar to Kairi. That was something out of her control. And I don't think it's the same as feeling the guilt of being responsible for that other individual's death, or the complicated emotions that have caused Kairi to become a different person than he was, and in fact a better person than he was, that Tsukasa can't see because, like the other Patranger, they let preconceptions cloud their better judgment. Again, with Noel around, that has been declining with them, but it's also a aspect of the series that cannot be denied, in that the Lupinranger are doing the right thing every time, and it's the Patranger that keep prosecuting them for simply being using the label of thief. It works on an individual character angle, but in the broader picture, there are definitely problems to this, but it's helpful nonetheless. As what results from this is, in the big battle against Kiwi again, Kairi takes point, and since Kiwi's Lupin collection piece allows him to evade all attacks and fire that are sent against him, Tsukasa manages to use the lucky pendants, as they're actually they actually contain luck power in them that is just ends up used up, and then the vines spread out as like an equivalent exchange thing. You use up the luck power, then you become host to all the charms vines. So basically, Kairi sacrifices himself and his own life in the short term to use the luck power of this pendant to hit Kiwi, which allows the other members of the team to recover the Lupin collection piece, and then let the Patrangers return the favor and finishing it off and saving his life. Tsukasa noting all of this in the exchanges, and that being how committed Kairi actually is, even though she doesn't know it's Kairi, to doing what he needs to in order to achieve this goal. And this complementing what was seen earlier with Kairi and her in civilian form, in that he's doing things with a purpose and not a seeming reckless abandon, like she realized she was in defiance of her own grandfather. So it's like, in the flashback, Tsukasa was forced to recognize a bigger picture she didn't see when she was younger that her grandfather was training her for, while Kairi is actually dealing with that bigger picture on his own now, in a way that other people can't relate that well to, and thus do it seemingly on accident. But regardless, with both of his subordinates down, and the Patrangers pretty much off to the side, not the Patranger, the Patranger taking point, they get crushed when Raimon pretty much grows to twice the size of the Megazords under his own power, and just devastates Good Striker, the Trigger Machines, and X-Emperor. So, like, yeah, this is a good cliffhanger to end things on, with the Patranger and Lupinranger in an amicable state between them, to thus lead into next week, where they finally combine 3, 6, 7, plus 4, 11 machines into Good Cool Striker somehow. I think it's going to be a Noel episode, but it seems to be bridging the both teams, at least from what we see in the short term. So yeah, this is definitely working better than the earlier show did before, but I feel that what they're trying to do now with the blending of the cast is hurt by, the prior material. We know more about these characters through the connections. It's just that how they relate to each other and how they've acted before, which is still a bit in conflict. But it's less in conflict than what happened the last 2 weeks on Build, because it's more Evolt, Evolt, Evolt. And dear God, this guy becomes less of an interesting villain as time goes on, even though he becomes potentially a bigger and bigger threat. We finally know what the Black Pandora panel does, and with the 10 lost bottles connected into it, it apparently allows Evolt the power to warp. Previously, Evolt had to waste the power he gained from devouring worlds, which this isn't a direct retcon in that he didn't absorb worlds before, he just went out and destroyed them. We had no knowledge that he actually absorbed their power before. That was not a thing seen of it before. As far as we were aware, he created black holes and blew them up until Bernage stopped him, however long a time ago that was. So yeah, that feels a bit retconny. But what the Lost Bottle Pandora panel will allow him to do is instantly warp from planet to planet, destroy it, absorb its power until the universe is empty, and he can create his own utopian world. And I'm like, what's the point of this planet? What's the point of this planet of your own personal peace gonna do in a universe that is entirely empty? You are so freaking short-sighted for a monster that has plans within plans and the patience to do all this stuff. I thought the reason you liked humanity and wasn't going to destroy their planet was, you liked the nature of the that was on display before. I mean, he is an eldritch alien entity. We aren't supposed to understand his thought processes, but the problem with that is he's been stuck in human forms for so long that some of that thanks as well to genius giving him actual human emotions, but he's been around us long enough to be able to relate the concepts and ideas behind why he does things. Because, there isn't a difference in culture, society, and, just the thought process between them to make that understandable to why he goes around destroying planets. We now have a motivation behind why that is, to create his own perfect world, but it's like, you can create without destroying. You can build on top of other things. That's why I kept thinking that his main goal after he said he liked humans was going to be to use the Lost Bottle Black Panel to bioform everyone into his species so everyone could be like him and embody the traits of humanity that he most finds amusing. Basically make an entire planet of his playthings that he's had so much fun with the last 10, 20 years. No, he's just gonna blow the place up like he was doing before. That's not very interesting. That's boring. We have had destruction for destruction's sake. That's not exactly interesting. It was interesting with D-Boss because D-Boss was not the main villain of the series. He was the final villain of the series, but the real stars of the D-Boss enemy faction was all the other interim generals, which did have personal goals that still related to in service of the D-Boss, but they had their own personal motivations for it. What does Evolt really gain from destroying everything just to build this place where he could do this at any point out in the universe? Hell, what created him and allowed him to have this power as well? It's like, there's so many missing holes to this, and it's just terrible that they turned this into a generic, I will destroy everything because I want to create it doesn't work. And to contrast this, the great leader of Shocker, he was an idiot, but he had defined motivations in that he was a Nazi. He was literally a Nazi. He believed in the supremacy and authority of his rule because he was advancing humans into these mutations and monsters that made them stronger than other people physically, but ended up being defeated not just by a creation of his own, but a creation that retained all the emotions and best aspects of humanity that were bred out and brainwashed out of his servants. It was the core values of humanity that allowed the heroes of the story to win against again, literal genocidal Nazis who wanted to rule the world, and it didn't matter that he was this alien mutant thing. His motivations were understandable under those terms. But I'm not getting that from Evolt, as he doesn't believe in supremacy. He believes in his the right to destroy from his own abilities, and his own evolution is just a means to an end. It's not so much a supremacy thing, but I don't even want to say it's arrogance, but it definitely comes off as arrogance, in that he is a superior life form by default over humanity. I know it seems like the same thing in like a compare contrast between them, but it really doesn't come off as that. The great leader of Shocker was advancing other things. They were just in servitude to himself and his whims, whereas Evolt could care less about anything but himself. Anyways, we learned this because Sento's dad, Shinobu Katsuragi, is not in fact an evil dad. So that evil dad rant about how so many Neo Heisei shows have done that with him that I made 2 weeks ago, and the like listing them off is kind of pointless now, because yeah, he was just faking it the entire time. That is a massive cop-out, but it got a bit alluded to in that you could see him trying to move things forward. In fact, this explains why instead of killing Banjo when he had the chance several times, he just stopped Banjo from rampaging after Evolt, maxing out his power, sent Banjo's Evolve genes back in overdrive until Sento fixed that. In fact, in episode 44, he shows that he built the Evolve trigger, the hazard trigger, like the Evolve trigger, even though he didn't have data on the Evolve trigger, so that doesn't quite make sense, because they were basically supposed to do the same thing. It was a power augmentation system. And in fact, the hazard trigger, as explored in episode 45, in fact had a second purpose than power augmentation of full bottles. It in fact further purified their essences of negative nebula gas. Why the hazard forms for Sento sent him rampaging simply was a defect in the system that Sento worked around through further purification. Like the hazard trigger system couldn't handle augmented purification of 2 different bottle types at the same time, so had to work with just one singular one at a time, ergo Rabbit Rabbit Tank Tank. And Genius gets around that because the 60 essences of the full bottles used into Genius are in perfect balance. So when he uses the hazard trigger with the Genius full bottle, it didn't actually trigger negative consequences, especially with how short of a time he uses it in episode 45. But point is, Evolt evolves into his Bloodstark monster crab form using the 10 full bottles. Then they get the rematch. This is episode 45 now where he does that. And they get the rematch with him, and Sento using the hazard trigger as part of his Genius form transformation. Genius does not have any physical signs of augmentation this time, so I figure it's like Rabbit Rabbit Tank Tank, in that Rabbit Rabbit Tank Tank are forms that Sento can assume without the hazard trigger. It's just that their powers are augmented further with use of hazard trigger. And for what we see of Genius in episode 45, it's probably doing the same thing with the max hazard on system. But back to the point, Sento uses the hazard trigger to purify 2 of the lost Smash bottles from the Black Pandora panel and render Evolt's evolutionary form to warp toward other planets completely inert, as he needs all 10 of them in the super condensed nebula gas state, and well, the Castle and Hammer full bottles got reverted to their standard Smash capacity. So yeah, kind of screwed yourself there. And he screwed himself worse because, well, in episode 45, he also kills Shinobu, so now he doesn't have any helpers. And if you're wondering about Usumi, well, when Team Build fought him in episode 44, Yeah, he splintered himself from their attempted destruction of him, so he possessed Utsumi and Katsumi, and Utsumi's out of it. Like, we don't know if he's dead from the previous possession, but he's not in good shape. Amidst all of this, Sento has been working on another device in hopes of disabling Evolt. This time it is the Blizzard Knuckle, based on the Silver Dragon bottle and Gold Rabbit full bottles that were converted from the movie, at least for the movie. And I figure that's what's going on, as otherwise where they're getting the full bottle to go into the Blizzard Knuckle is just... I don't know what's going on with that, where they got that potential full bottle from. But it's eventually going to Katsumi, and in these episodes, they're trying to get Banjo to use it as an additional upgrade for him. It's not working, simply because Actually, that might be it. It might be based on Bernage's genes, and Sento getting samples from when he transferred Bernage's essence into Banjo, because they know that Bernage's abilities negate Evolt's power and heal any damage to him. So it might be that the Blizzard Knuckle is based on Bernage's essence versus the Magma Knuckle being born from Evolt's essence. So I'm thinking that's what they did, because they did not explain where the Blizzard Knuckle is coming from at all. It's essentially but it's clearly supposed to be a 3-part arc with the damn thing involved, so they introduce it, have Kazumi have the action, so he needs a power-up now, and then he gets the actual power-up in episode 46. I think that's how they're working it out, because we know he's debuting with his new Grease Blizzard, which is basically a recolor of the standard Grease suit from gold into metallic blue, which, hey, from the preview images I saw of it in the Television magazines that have been being passed around, it looks good. And I actually like the little robot arm that they took from the Phoenix Robo suit for it, because, come on, they need to give him something of an augmentation if they're going to give him his power-up. Actually, something else that got pointed out to me, if Ryuga's super form is fire-based, and Kazumi's is going to be ice-based, then if Rogue and, I'm forgetting the guy's name now because he's not been a relevant speaking character in the show for a while now. Yeah, I am completely blanking on the guy's name. I am terrible with names. But yeah, the suggestion was maybe Rogue should get a lightning-based form, simply so they can complete a recurring themology of fire, ice, lightning that shows up as a trinity in a number of Japanese properties. Like, the most common one you would probably see is Moltres, Articuno, and Zapdos in this. But yeah, that would be amusing. It's likely not going to happen, and likely not the direction they're going to take it, but it would be nice. But yeah, that thing was basically useless thus far, because all they did with it in episode 44 was punch the Evolt's Evolve trigger to actually end up defeating him, after Shinobu showed them that the hazard trigger's power amplifying state is actually the weakness of any form that uses it, by using it to lock up Build Tank's form by hitting it. Now, the reason why they probably wouldn't think of this is it's common courtesy across the franchise that you don't hit below the belt, and you don't actually hit the belt's transformation device in battle. You hit anywhere else from that. Admittedly, it's an obvious weakness to strike for, but, you know, it's like the you don't attack during the transformation sequence thing. There's reasons and logic behind why that usually isn't done, because a lot of the time it usually doesn't end up working. Regardless, that's probably why nobody thought of it, even though it kind of feels obvious, because if you break any belt for any reason, then they're not going to be able to transform. So it doesn't even take attacking the Evolve trigger. Just break the Evolve driver again, and Evolve is reduced to a less powerful state, even though he's technically complete. So, and we know from prior evidence that he doesn't know how to fix his own things. Hell, it's alluded to in these episodes that the Evolve driver that Utsumi's been using was built by Shinobu. And hey, since he just killed Shinobu when he finally revealed that he was tricking Evolt the entire time to try and actually save the world, well, yeah, good luck finding someone who will build that again for you. Shinobu's whole thing with the Pandora panel, though, is he was trying to save the world by pretty much cutting their losses and teleporting everybody on the planet to another world. He was actually constructing a white Pandora panel for that exact purpose. He's been going along with Evolt's plan simply so he could find the opportune moment to shut down Evolt and everything, and he actually succeeds in that, and it's only because of Utsumi being possessed by a piece of Evolt that Evolt ends up getting unleashed again into all the bigger stuff that happens at the end, with him actually getting the full completed Black Pandora panel. So, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and now this guy is dead. Him being dead, though, is a bit of a continuity error, or at least we think it is, because Build's movie is explicitly said to occur between episodes 45 and 46. We just had episode 45 air, and from the preview information, Shinobu has been in a lot of the trailers, so either it's someone wearing Shinobu's face, which, let's be honest, with Evol's power to change people's faces, that isn't unheard of, or it's all a dream-based hallucination of Sento's in seeing his father, in part in grief, because, well, the guy just died. It wouldn't surprise me if that's the case, as it kind of felt like that was the angle they were taking when they break from battle for the day for, you know, Evol losing his new ultimate form and the others being exhausted simply from the conflict. So yeah, a lot of stuff happened, but it just felt really exhausting because I'm honestly bored with Build. I keep pointing back to the war arc dragging too long, and Genius form debuting after Evolt gains his black hole form in throwing off, like, the power tier rankings for this, so you don't have any break between big events and then just the bigger crisis. But since it's been escalating so incrementally, we've just been getting tired as, oh no, this is the biggest stake. No wait, that's then the biggest stake. And it's so much that we just, I feel like at the end of the series, it's so much has happened without a stop or breaking points or just chugging along so much that I'm exhausted with it and just, I can't bring myself to care much. I pretty much know the end game for how they're going to do this, though. They're going to warp everybody from Build's Earth and send it to the mainline continuity Earth to just merge the timelines and take everything back to the Neo Heisei crunched timeline Earth, so everything is in line for when Zi-O does the next stuff with the series. So, it's like, it feels again like, was this show pointless because nothing ended up, because they're pretty much pressing the reset button just with 4 more writers to Toei Earth's universe. Could they have done this, all the Skywall stuff, like, compressed into a differing span of time than just sending off to the alternate universe that adds just another one of the merged AR worlds to everything? It's like, there are so many questions I feel the show could be asking and answering, and they're not really doing it. So, again, I'm not saying Build is bad, but I feel like it kind of squandered its potential because the storytelling isn't up to the quality of what they want to do. I don't know. It's just how I feel after all this. But yeah, I will be back next week for more Lupinranger and the beginning of the end for Build. Hopefully Kazumi will have a good showing as Grease Blizzard. We really don't know at this point. Oh, in other news, because people are probably going to be wondering, I am working on editing the beginnings of Hibiki right now. I've got 4 parts of it ready to go, and I'll be editing those further over the weekend. They've actually turned out to be a bit shorter than I usually go for, so hopefully this won't be too bad in the editing department. I've been having editing issues all year simply because of how exhausted I am from my day job. Yeah, the end is coming. The end is nigh. And I will see you all next time.